Welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE SmackDown every Friday night after the bell. My name's John Zindel. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
It's season premiere time, not for us. We did that last week, but for SmackDown. Tonight's the season premiere of SmackDown. And just like any season premiere of TV, we got a lot of big stars on the show. We got some new characters introduced, and we had some new plot lines that they're developing that may have some legs to them. So, with all of those ingredients, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from the October 13th SmackDown season premiere?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. And I'll tell you what, we had one heck of a main event here. We had LA Knight versus Solo Sikoa, and LA Knight is victorious after a little funny business. And we have, one of the Uso brothers interrupting, and then we have John Cena interrupting. But overall, very good main event. Dom, what did you think of this match?
I thought the match was really good. We've seen LA Knight close SmackDown with a few matches now, and they've all been good.
Yeah.
He's not quite in the Gunther level yet from just in-ring work, but it's good to see just a really good singles match to close the show. I mean, you're a wrestling fan too. What do you think of just getting a singles match that's got really good in-ring work in it?
I think we said it, we've been doing this for about a year and we've stuck with our principles here. We just want a main event at the end and a good main event, and that's what we got. It wasn't some promo, it wasn't, some filler main event. It was really just a good match. And I actually have on my notes here that this kind of reminds me of Gunther.
Oh, there you go.
Because it's a good, stiff match, and it's a little against the grain here with what you would typically see with a WWE match. Some of them become quite formulaic, and this one wasn't really falling into that formula.
No, it was really cool. And it was more than a match though, because we got at the end of it, of course, Roman Reigns comes in and spears LA Knight. After LA Knight is celebrating his victory over Solo Sikoa. The match goes about 13 minutes. Bell time was 9:43. They were done at 9:56 here on the East Coast, so they could have that extra 2 minutes here. And you're right, we got a little bit of a run in there at the end. Jimmy Uso runs out and is just setting up in the corner like he's going to charge across the ring at LA Knight. And he's waiting for him and he's kind of calling him up. And suddenly John Cena runs in, intercepts Jimmy, gives him the attitude adjustment, but then Solo Sikoa, he comes to from the other corner, spikes John Cena out of the ring. And while he's, giving out his tribal yell there, LA Knight sneaks up on Solo, gives him the blunt force trauma for the pin. So little funny business, but a pretty clean match. It's not like there was interference the whole match or even guys outside the ring. It was just his last maybe minute that there were other guys other than LA Knight and Solo Sikoa in the ring. We were treated to a pretty good match. Great finish, and then a great post-match finish with Roman Reigns spearing LA Knight. LA Knight just selling the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Just on the ground writhing, and Roman Reigns just standing over him with the belt, bending down, enjoying at him, putting up the one finger, everything as the show goes off the air. So there's a lot more to this main event than just the wrestling, but I'm glad we got some good wrestling.
Absolutely. Another note I have here is just a specific spot I thought was really good was the belly-to-belly suplex by Solo Sikoa on to LA Knight was nasty.
Yeah.
He lifts him up way high and Knight jumps with it and he just takes him down. And it was like especially major belly to belly suplex. And I think it added to the physicality.
Yes.
Your word that I'm going to steal here, but it was just a really stiff match. And
yeah, when guys jump into moves and really take hard bumps, it makes it look like a fight.
Yeah.
they're not jumping in for acrobatics. He's letting the guy. I mean, Solo Sikoa is a big guy. He
Mhm.
should be able to toss you around, and they played that up the whole match. That Solo's a bigger wrestler. LA Knight twice goes to scoop slam him and can't do it because Solo fights him off the first time. The second time LA Knight gets him up in the scoop, Solo's able to elbow him and then just splash him
Yeah.
as Knight's got him up but can't turn him. So
Mhm.
they're playing that Solo Sikoa is a powerhouse. And sure, your LA Knight jump into a belly to belly and make it look like he just ragdolled you across the ring, which
Mhm.
he did.
Right. I'll tell
So
you what.
these guys worked a great match, and they brought it up on commentary that a year ago, you wouldn't have known who either of these guys were.
Yeah.
Solo Sikoa showed up in September. He's been in the bloodline, but he was always in the back of that group until the last few months. LA Knight was not, and just about a year and a few weeks later, these guys are the main event of the season premiere of a star-studded SmackDown.
For sure.
Who would have thunk it? Do they deserve it?
Absolutely. Um,
Okay.
I would say if they just rehashed two guys, if it was like John Cena and Undertaker, I just sometimes it's just like, okay, I know who these guys are, but where are we going here? But to see them kind of developing younger stars, or I should say they're not younger, but newer stars,
Newer.
and seeing them kind of execute on what they need to do, both as a babyface and heel. Yeah, there's not. I mean, it's very promising, I'd have to say, for what we're going to be watching, kind of going forward here. And we want the show to be good because we have to watch it every Friday.
Yes, we do.
And if it's in the toilet, then we have to actually like talk about it, and it's no good for us. So we do
No, and
the
then we're
best that
sitting
we
there
can.
going, "Yeah, they went 10 minutes, and then the talking gave us a 2-minute squash match."
Nobody wants to just hear us complain.
No,
So
no.
as a result of not hearing us just complain,
I'll have some complaints later, but for the main event, no complaints. And let's tie the main event into the opening segment because it was long and there was a lot of talking. But it's like you're saying there, we got a mix of old standards,
yeah.
but they're bringing in newer wrestlers. It's like they're trying to really elevate guys. They're not just sending the stars out there to just have a nostalgic clap.
Hmm.
They're trying to use the established stars who've been there for years and years to elevate the next round, the next generation of guys. So let's. I mean, I don't know if this is the follow yet, or because it ties into the main event. But what do you think about that opening segment with John Cena, and then Roman Reigns' music hits to cut him off, and he's just running down Cena in the ring, and then what happens?
Um, you're talking about the
I mean,
opener,
there's Roman, Solo Sikoa, Paul Heyman just running down Cena saying, "You're on my show and you're doing it wrong. This is how you do it. Tulsa, Oklahoma, acknowledge me." And then he's, really running down Cena. You think you're the GOAT. You even got these guys telling you you're the GOAT. I take my leave, and that's why you can come back. Like the only reason you were able to get a cheer is because I've been gone for a couple of months resting up
right?
because I'm the. So he's really right. He's talking down to Cena like Cena's like this nobody.
Right.
It's John freaking Cena. But but Cena doesn't get up all in his chest and try to outdo him there. He almost is like, yeah, like he knows he's the guy who just showed up as a part timer now, and that
Mhm,
Roman Reigns is the guy really carrying the company. And
mhm.
Cena goes, "I acknowledge you. What you've done is amazing. You're the champion, and I'm not going to challenge you for the belt because I haven't earned it. But I know someone who has." And then what happens?
Yeah, I missed the opener, so maybe you could fill that in. Sorry.
Sure. That's when so there's Cena basically saying, I'm not going to challenge you, but someone else should. And LA Knight's music hits.
Oh,
And the crowd goes nuts. And LA Knight comes down, gets in the ring, and starts jawing with Roman Reigns. And I got to tell you, he did not seem out of place. Like when
perfect.
you put someone in the ring with Roman Reigns to do a promo battle, you're wondering, is the other guy going to look bad?
Not to be too hot takey here, but when they're kind of aligning here, who is going to take the belt? It felt like it was going to be Cody last year. Now you have LA Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, who would you fantasy book put it on? Would you say it's LA Knight or Cody Rhodes?
Tonight they gave us teasers for both.
Yeah.
Because coming out for the main event, Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are walking back up the ramp towards the back. The whole bloodline comes out for Solo Sikoa's match initially for the entrance, and there's Roman Reigns staring down Cody Rhodes, and neither one of them's given an inch. So I think they're teasing us that there's not only one way to go here, which is good because you don't want it to be too predictable.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who's going to get the next shot at Roman Reigns. As far as somebody actually beating Roman Reigns, Cody has the gravitas to do that. And the way he looked on this episode of SmackDown, LA Knight looks like he has it too. He held his own in this promo battle in this long opening segment. The crowd was not tired of it. Eventually, Jimmy Uso comes in from behind because it's Roman, Solo, and Paul Heyman in there on one side of the ring. LA Knight and John Cena, who's just kind of waiting in the corner now because he handed his microphone to LA Knight. Like this is your time here. Like Cena's not hot dogging him.
Right.
This is really good work by John Cena. Like he's like, hey, your time, and he's going into the corner. And so now LA Knight and Roman Reigns have a great exchange, and then Jimmy Uso comes in and ambushes LA Knight while everybody just kind of watches because Solo stands in between Cena and the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Cena can't get at him. But LA Knight turns the tables, tosses Jimmy Uso out of the ring, and just stares down at Roman. Like, do you want it now? And Roman and Paul Heyman leave the ring. Solo Sikoa is always the last guy to ring because he wants to fight. And Solo Sikoa is jawing on the handheld camera with the mic, saying, "I want you tonight. You and me one-on-one tonight." And LA Knight picks up the microphone and he's addressing the crowd because not everybody in the arena can hear that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He says, for those of you who don't speak moron, this guy wants me one-on-one tonight.
It's a good LA Knight.
It is. It's a good LA Knight. So they
Yeah.
It's a good LA Knight setup. Yeah, the crowd's doing the yeah. At one point LA Knight says, "I'm sorry, I haven't introduced myself. My name is," and the crowd does it for him. LA Knight. He looked like a star tonight,
Mm-hmm.
which is important because to face Roman Reigns, you must look like a star.
For sure.
We know he can wrestle, but he's got to look like a star. So you ask me, who do I think they're going to put it on next? I don't know, but they've given themselves more than one possibility. There's more than one guy who now has stood in the ring promoing with Roman Reigns and who showed himself to be pretty good in the ring and who's main evented a premium live event and now main evented a season premiere of SmackDown. So I think they have more than one possibility. I want to see LA Knight get it. I think it's just such a cool story. I think it's a cooler story than Cody Rhodes because Cody Rhodes' story was scripted and LA Knight's story has been organic. So if you ask me, who do I want to see story finished? I want to see LA Knight get the belt. I think he's still young enough to do it. I don't mind if each of them gets the belt eventually over the course of the year. But I think it's going to come down to timing and at which pay-per-view they're going to have Roman drop it. Are they going to wait for WrestleMania? Are they going to have it be Royal Rumble? Or are they going to have it be Survivor Series? It's not going to be Crown Jewel. So whoever's going to get fed to Roman at Crown Jewel in 3 weeks, sorry, you're not winning the belt on a Saturday afternoon during college football when almost no one is watching. Yeah. You're going to win the belt back in the U.S. at one of the big four.
Yeah, hey.
Right?
I'll tell you what. It's great they have the multiple options here, and I am a pretty big advocate for LA Knight to win it. But Cody could potentially win it as well. Maybe I would lean toward LA Knight because I think he's just better talker and he'd be like a little bit more interesting. Cody just seems a little too.
Okay.
I don't know. There's something about Cody where it felt like his opportunity was last year, and I don't know how much longer you could drag this Cody Rhodes storyline out. I was already kind of getting stale going into WrestleMania last year. I don't know if you could keep doing that.
If you want to jump to the follow, we can talk Cody because I think there's an analogy here or something similar enough with what they did with the tag team titles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
well,
we
I'll tell
got a
you.
tag team title match tonight because they own the unified tag team title, so Cody and Jay can show up on either program.
Mm-hmm.
So they managed to get the belts off of the Usos after a record-setting tag title reign onto a really hot babyface team.
Mm-hmm.
But then they got the belts off of them and onto another suddenly really hot babyface team. So I don't think it's out of the question that you can put the belt on two baby faces in the same year. So I don't think Cody getting it would close the door on LA Knight. I don't think LA Knight getting it would close the door on Cody Rhodes getting it. I think you can do it, and they just kind of showed us a pretty good formula with the tag title belts. If you have nothing else to say about the main event opener segment that kind of combined and provided the bread for the sandwich here tonight, I'd like to go into that tag team match and what we saw from it and maybe what it can teach us here.
Let's do it. And that's going to be the lead, folks. And we're going to go into the next segment, which is the follow, where we discuss everything outside of the main event that happened during WWE SmackDown. So, Dom, go ahead and take us through the tag.
Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes beat Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, who they're fun. They're not going to win the belt really, but they're fun. They work and they do their shtick in about 10 minutes. Belt time at 9:25 here on the East Coast, and at about 9:35, Cody and Jay are working as a pretty well-oiled tag team. They have some combination finisher now. It's Cody's Cody Cutter combined with the 1D, the one and done that the Uso brothers had done. They now call it the Cody 1D, which is Jay holding up in this instance Austin Theory as Cody springs off the middle rope for the Cody Cutter. So that's the Cody 1D. And then Jay dives on Grayson Waller on the outside to keep him from getting back into the ring as Cody hits crossroads on Theory for the pinfall. Pretty interesting, if predictable, match.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, a lot of fun, but really more interesting to me for just having Cody and Jay on the season premiere of SmackDown to have that stare down right after this match. Post match, there's Jay and Jimmy face to face. Jay's got belts again. Jimmy doesn't. There's Cody and then Roman Reigns coming out to stand next to Solo Sikoa. Cody and Roman face to face again, and a new face separating them, telling them not now, not now. We'll get into some of the new stars who we saw here, but any notes from this tag team match here that you had?
Yeah. So if I'm going to go through the tag match, I'll go ahead and say I liked Grayson Waller selling to the crowd. And I know that's like kind of cheap, but for some reason, people always skip over that as heels. They just go about their business. I think specifically, you could even say Austin Theory, who's really good in the ring, but he's missing that like one element of charisma where he's not selling to the crowd as a heel. Take some cheap heat, go scream at the crowd, and they want to scream back at you. I guess
there's charisma on the mic and there's charisma in a match. Austin Theory is missing the charisma in the match. Grayson Waller has it. That's a really good distinction to bring up there. Yeah, so you're high on Waller's ability to do that in a match.
Yeah, I think it's just like he takes some easy W's, and I think that's what people are missing. Sometimes people can miss that, where they go out, they get their, as JR would say, get their shit in, and they go do their moves, and then they go back to the back, and it's like, are we going to talk to the crowd? Are we going to interact? Are we going to make it worth their while? Are we going to, there's an element of the improv that you'd like to see. when people go out and they start screaming at the crowd, and then they scream back at them, and they go back and forth. It's just interesting and it's something you could do as a heel, and it's really cheap and easy. But I think Grayson did a good job with that stuff. Overall, I think the only beef, I think the match was pretty solid. My only beef is it took forever to get to with all the entrances and the commercials. And I feel like there was with 3 entrance songs at least, and they were long, and there was a lot of commercials. So it just took a while to get to. But once we got
There was
there,
a 33-minute lag between the end of the prior match and the bell time for this match. So you are correct.
mhm,
And it included right around that 9 o'clock hour, Triple H.
yeah.
Why not book yourself for right there at the prime time middle of it, right? Oh, we love you. But he comes out and he's talking business. It's the season premiere. He promotes Adam Pearce to general manager of Monday Night Raw. He says it's too big of a job for one guy to do both shows, both brands. And he introduces the new general manager of SmackDown, Nick Aldis. No reaction. Crowd dead for it. And I almost laughed out loud. I went, oh boy, this is too bad because Nick Aldis is pretty good. Now, maybe it's because the crowd was already so amped up because Dominic Mysterio, of all people, came out to interrupt
Oh
the
yeah.
boss and the other boss. Like, who's this guy coming out interrupting business with the bosses? Like, you're just insulting both of your bosses, or at least 2 of them. I mean, if Vince McMahon was in the ring, it would have been the trifecta, or something. But yeah, Dominic Mysterio's out there and getting like booed crazy. And Nick Aldis comes out, no reaction from the crowd, but they take a liking to him because he does a great move. He sees Dominic Mysterio there, goes to shake his hand and says, "I'm a big fan of your dad,"
Right.
and turns away as he says it. And the crowd loved it. So once he did that, it was like, all right, this guy's cool. We
Yeah.
like him. So
Hey,
good move for you, Nick Aldis, and excellent work by having Dominic Mysterio out there for a huge assist.
I'll tell you what. Triple H said something, and it kind of reminded me of something you said in a previous episode where people were booing so loudly, and he said, "Man, I always thought this might have been piped in, but I can really hear the boos." And he mentioned before that it sounds like it might be piped in. And
Yes.
I was like, man, is Triple H watching the show? Because we talk about how we think it might be piped in, but then he's
He's watching us and he's answering. He's trolling us during the show.
right.
Don't bury the lead is in their heads. We're in their heads, John.
Right. I think that was a shot at us by Triple H, and I'll take it. Right?
We can bump.
We can bump. We can
We'll
verbally
bump and sell for Triple H. Yeah.
right. Yes, we will bump and sell for Triple H for sure. But yeah, this was an okay segment. I guess it got to where it needed to be. Triple H booked himself, but I do have to admit the Tulsa crowd went pretty crazy for him when he came out.
Yeah.
So, pretty big pop for the old man to come out and do
He's
that.
still a star.
Yeah,
He's still a star, and he's not overused. He's not Adam Pearce is the guy you see every show, not Triple H.
mm-hmm.
So Triple H isn't overused. I think it's cool that we got some 2 highly decorated NWA World's Heavyweight Champions now as the 2 GMs on Monday Night Raw is going to be Adam Pearce, 5-time NWA champion, and Nick Aldis, who I think he's a 2-time champ. One of his wins was over Cody Rhodes, and his other title reign lasted almost as long as Roman Reigns' current title reign has lasted. So there's a lot of gold in that ring, and they're wearing suits, but they look like they can each still go.
Yeah, and not to mention you got, I mean, not for nothing, you have the 2 NWA guys, and then LA Knight. Was he in the NWA or was that TNA?
He was an Impact Wrestling champ. He was a minor title holder in NWA going into 2020, and then all the COVID stuff really put him and a lot of other people out of wrestling for the better part of a year and a half. But he was LA Knight's held gold somewhere else. So there's a lot of guys who've had belts elsewhere, and like they're WWE's not mentioning their history with championships, but at the same time they're putting him in pretty good positions. Like Adam Pearce, I mean he's got a lot to do on these shows. Nick Aldis now I think is going to have a lot to do on SmackDown, and LA Knight he's now another main event guy.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't at this point they don't have to mention LA Knight's past as a champion in other promotions because they've done a good job of going with the flow of him organically becoming a star in WWE. So they don't need to do it. And speaking of another star in WWE, part of this segment here was to introduce the completion of the trade because Jey Uso was traded to Raw.
Right.
When he left SmackDown. The new star to come over is Kevin Owens. So we're now seeing the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens split, which opens up a chance on Raw for Sami and Jay to do more of their dynamic without the kind of the Kevin Owens. I don't trust him. If you trust him, that's your problem. I don't trust him. Kevin Owens being like that, being the wet blanket.
Yeah,
now KO can come over to SmackDown and maybe just get into some single stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea for him. You don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over with these guys, specifically Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So they make up, they break up, make up, break up. Why don't you just split them up, put them on different shows, and have them go their own way? You have plenty of stuff with Sami Zayn, and I love to see him in the title picture too, because he wasn't in it last year, or he was supposed to be, and then he had that excellent match, probably one of the matches of the year with Roman Reigns, and I believe that was Battleground. It was in Montreal,
right? It was the one right after the Royal Rumble. It was the Elimination Chamber in Montreal. That was, you and I agree, that of the 5 Roman Reigns pay-per-view singles title defensive we've seen, that was the best of the 5.
That might, that could probably be the match of the year, and I would say that's probably it.
Yeah, I as far as Roman Reigns matches go, that one edges out the Cody Rhodes WrestleMania match, was also excellent. But yeah, so they have some pretty good baby faces. So we got a lot of star power in this segment, and that wasn't the end of the star power and the new characters for the season premiere of the TV show. They come back from commercial backstage. Nick Aldis is talking with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven about the women's tag division being cursed, so they're still playing that up, but he sends them away because he's got to talk to Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair's getting a title shot at Io Sky next week, and as Charlotte turns to leave, she's staring eye to eye with Jade Cargill. And then right over her shoulder, Triple H comes into the crowd, the camera shot there grinning. So that was a little comedy there. But yeah, Charlotte and Jade Cargill. Good, terse introduction. They didn't have to say a lot, but really good. So we got a lot of new characters on the season premiere of SmackDown, some old returning stars and some new characters and some new storylines. Did you think there was too much, or do you think that everything got its proper room to breathe as they introduced it into the show?
I'm going to be honest with you. I like wrestling on the wrestling shows. So I thought some of the segments or all the talking stuff was a little long.
Okay, fair.
I would probably prefer just another hard-hitting match that got us to the same kind of points there. But it kind of feels like a little bit like filler. Although they do serve a purpose. So I don't know.
Sure.
I'm in the middle about it.
Speaking of filler and things that I thought were a little not right and funny, do you want to do the opening match with Pretty Deadly and the Brawling Brutes, or do you want to do the Bayley versus Zelina Vega match?
Yeah, let's do Pretty Deadly versus Butch and Ridge Holland.
It's the return of Elton Prince, who's back from his shoulder injury that kept him in a wheelchair for several months. Pretty Deadly winds up winning this match as Elton is faking a knee and back injury.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just got injured the last time they faced the Brawling Brutes. He's faking a knee injury. The ref goes to check on him with his knee, and the referee is holding back Ridge Holland, saying, "No, back off. I got to check on him." And she's checking on him, and it's his knee, and then he rolls it. "No, it's my back. It's my back. Oh, it's his back now." And then the ref, we can hear it at home on the TV feed because the camera's right up on them. She says, "Okay, I'm going to call for some help. I'm going to call for some help." While behind her, Ridge Holland's against the rope. Kit Wilson, Enziguri kicks him up across the head. Ridge staggers to the middle of the ring. Suddenly, Elton Prince is healthy.
Yeah.
He jumps up, rolls up Ridge Holland for the 1, 2, 3. The ref looks incredibly stupid. How do you? This is the dumbest a referee has ever looked in a match. You spent 2 solid minutes checking on the guy's injury, telling the other guy to back off, saying into the camera that you're going to call for help, and then suddenly he hops up like nothing's wrong, and you're like, "Oh well, continue the match." You don't think anything has happened behind you? The ref looked incredibly stupid here. Incredibly stupid. And to me, that overshadows the fact that Pretty Deadly is back. Yes, boy! They're entertaining. They're in that Grayson Waller Austin Theory slot for me. They can go in the ring. They have good characters. They're committed to them. I don't mind stuff that's a little off the wall if the people are committed to them and make them work.
I like,
but we just dopey match. Go ahead, save it from me because I'm complaining now.
No, I'm going to say I like the vignettes while they were injured. I actually thought those were actually funny. And WWE is guilty of doing stuff that's supposed to be funny, and it's just cringe and stupid.
Yes.
Like the Grayson Waller effect, I think is supposed to be funny somehow, but it's just cringe.
It's not funny.
It's not funny. But they're them working out and like trying to get him back and going and doing all that stupid stuff. Like it's stupid, but it's funny.
And getting Elton Strong to trend as a hashtag on social media. Elton Strong.
Yeah.
See, they're committed to it.
And what he heard, he hurt his shoulder and he's in a wheelchair.
Yes.
like
Elton Strong. They're committed.
So I like
anything from this match. I know you're a big fan of Butch, and you know he rarely disappoints when he's out there, but he's kind of an afterthought in this match because it's all about the goofiness with Elton faking an injury and then Ridge Holland getting blindsided.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Butch. Pete Dunne is what he used to be called, and now he's Butch. It'd be great if they started calling him Pete Dunne again. I kind of like that name a little better. But Butch, I've been a big fan of, and I'd like to see him get on the winning side of this. I appreciate what they're doing. I think they make a lot of their minutes, but I would like to see them kind of go on a bit of a tear here. I like this team, so I don't think they're as well positioned as jobbers, and maybe if they just look good jobbing, look good jobbing, they can start to give them a little momentum. We saw that with Ricochet last year.
You read my mind, man. We saw that just about this time last year with Ricochet. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this leads into backstage. Bobby Lashley and Carlito, a little interrupting of an interview segment, and then the Street Profits jump Carlito from behind after Carlito says, "How about you, Bobby Lashley, for my first opponent on SmackDown?" And eventually that brings out the rest of the LWO to check on Carlito, which is Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio, and Zelina Vega. Are Cruz, Del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde just out of the picture now? Is the LWO just going to be Rey, Santos, and Carlito now with Zelina as the valet? Too bad for those guys. They were athletic and they were colorful and they could work, but maybe they just needed more star power in the faction. This leads to Zelina Vega getting into an argument with Bayley. Mm-hmm. So that becomes the next match. Bayley with Io Sky and Dakota Kai versus Zelina Vega. This becomes a 2-minute squash. Bayley hits the Rose Plant after a little bit of interference from Io Sky. on Zelina Vega. This match is over in somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes. Post-match, Io Sky and Bailey go for a beatdown of Zelina Vega. And then I laughed at what happened next. Charlotte Flair comes out for a run-in to save Zelina Vega. She's wearing these enormous high heels. She can't run. She's awkwardly hobbling down to the ring to make the save. And I'm going, you've got to be kidding me.
I know. It's like they didn't think that she'd have to come in. Like did she not know she had to run, or she's like, no, I'll do it in the heels.
I'll run in the heels. Oh, okay, you'll run in the heels. No, you're not. You look ridiculous. My goodness, you're a world-class athlete.
I watched with my wife tonight, and that was her call out. Why is she in heels?
Yes.
Why would she do that?
Thank you, Mrs. John, for calling that one out.
Right.
So, I mean, nothing really to say about this match. It's over in 2 minutes. It's going to lead to Charlotte Flair and Io Sky getting their one-on-one match next week with maybe Jade Cargill in the picture at some point. I think that's our show. Was there anything you thought we missed or anything you wanted to circle back to and maybe talk about again?
No, that's the show. And you know what that means, Dom.
It's drive time. It's the season premiere of SmackDown, and it's our time to review this very special episode. We're going to distill everything down into a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. No thumbs in the middle, no sliding scales, no grades, no star ratings. It's a simple pass-fail here. What did this show do for you? We've been going simultaneous for a while. I think I'd like you to take the lead here on this one, though, because I think you have a lot to say here. What did you think of this show here?
All right, I'll do it. Ready? 3, 2.
This you, baby.
1. Thumbs
You're
up.
You're going to give it an up. Okay.
I was set on giving it a thumbs down.
Okay.
Going up until the main event. And then I'm sitting there, and I was so into the main event. I thought the match was good. It was two guys I really like. It was a style of wrestling that I like. It was the style of the main event that I like. And I thought, for all the junk I had to watch to get to this, I kind of think it was worth it. I'm glad I watched it, and I was into it. So it's a thumbs up for me. And I've been giving a lot of SmackDown thumbs up. So how about you, Dom? Where are you at?
I'm also going to give it a thumbs up. This is not the first time that an LA Knight final segment has saved the SmackDown.
It saved it, right?
This is not the first time where it's teetered me to a solid thumbs up. There was a lot to do on this show. I don't envy creative for having to throw all this stuff into a 2-hour show. I think they did it without stuff dragging. There was a lot of interesting stuff here. It was a good season premiere. It gave us stuff to look forward to, new stars, big names, new plot lines going forward, and maybe some plot lines that can turn into those big overarching things that span several weeks, maybe even several pay-per-view and premium live event cycles. I like it. I like it. Thumbs up for me as well. Perfect.
So that's our show. That's SmackDown. We talked about it, and we got 2 thumbs up. So
2 thumbs up for the season premiere. It's a tough show. It's a tough show to put on, and I think they put it on well. And it's getting cheap in here.
It's time for our next segment here, Dom.
It's getting cheap in here, baby.
Cheap Heat. Cheap Heat is where we talk about trending topics, and we make short videos based off of these trending topics. It could be anywhere in the world of wrestling. It could be CM Punk freaked out and made a fool of himself. We make a video. We talk about it. We make a video about it. There's been a lot of people making fools of themselves this week. I think if you're familiar with the wrestling industry, and we'll touch on that. But first things first, let's go with what Dom's bringing up here.
Okay, I thought you had. We'll save the other stuff for later.
Or I can do it now. Honestly,
you want to do it? Go for it. I mean, don't bury the lead. What's our lead of Cheap Heat here?
So the lead is going to be Tony Khan went crazy on Twitter. Uh, and not just a little crazy, like really, really crazy. And I did a little investigation here and here is what he was posting. So you've got here where he says, I have a special message for them. See you tonight at a special Tuesday night, title fight night, or title fight Tuesday at 8 p.m., blah, 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 blah. At least 30 minutes are commercial free and a big overrun tonight. And he calls Triple H and Shawn Michaels bald assholes. So
Okay.
they are bald. So this is correct, but pretty petty, I'd have to say. Look at this.
You watch AEW. Isn't that their style a little bit to be a little crass there? I mean, this is nothing compared to a John Moxley promo, right?
I mean, they are a little crass, but they typically are in storyline talking to people, not
Right.
like our competitor is WWE, and this is how we feel about them. Hang on, I have to load this awful app and get the rest of the tweets that he said. I hate this stupid thing.
Well, we can just talk about that first one. This reeks of Eric Bischoff during the Monday Night Wars getting a little too out over his skis and calling out Vince McMahon. And then eventually, WWE lays down the big bucks to bring in Mike Tyson for WrestleMania. And that turns the tide. And now WCW is kind of on the, it's gradually, and then all at once, that was the end of it. But even Bischoff never went to this, because he's an executive. Maybe he appears on screen sometimes, but he's an executive of the company. You can't do that. Tony Khan, is he making too much of a shoot out of a work, or too much of a work out of a shoot, or shooting and working at the same time? He's not an on-screen character. He's a guy on a huge media platform who's an executive of a company. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's reverse it. Could you imagine Triple H doing this to Tony Khan?
Exactly. No.
In his position now, not 20 years ago in DX,
no.
but in his position now as an exec.
No, and here's my feedback to Tony Khan. Here's the deal. Twitter does exist, and I understand that you have to be on it to promote your show, but it's really not the place to act up. And I feel like it was Tony Khan's birthday. I saw a picture of him with Ric Flair, and there's two women, and they're drinking. So hanging out with Flair, he's probably drinking a little bit too much on his birthday, and he has all the booze, and he's all boozed up. And then suddenly, what time is this even when he sent these out? I think I had seen that there. Of course, it won't tell me when he sent them, but I got the impression that they were a little bit later at night. And ultimately, what I'm saying here is, if you're out for your birthday, you're having drinks with Ric Flair, don't go on Twitter. Don't go on Twitter, because
maybe to post a selfie or a photo with him, something like that, but not to lay out your, business strategy.
Mm-hmm. So, he goes on, he calls them bald assholes. But then he also says, yes, Vince has allegedly used his power and influence to shoot a lot of shots. So he's basically talking about Vince's sexual accusations against him. So, he's just going way. This isn't necessary. It's not a good look. It doesn't help AEW get views. It doesn't help his company. And if you're trying to get a deal with HBO Max, you're probably sifting through the tweets and you're thinking, what are you doing, dude? What is this exactly? So I think it was a bad look. And I think everyone that has that stupid app, because I hate it, on your phone, you pull out your phone, you find X, and you delete it. Because nothing good comes from Twitter. Only bad. Only bad.
I've been calling Twitter a cesspool of dumpster fires for years. Now, I realize that it has a use if you know how to use it properly, but I don't know if that was a good use of it. And you're an AEW fan. AEW's big hook for people was that they kind of let the wrestling speak for itself and the characters speak for themselves. Is this Tony Khan, in a sense, burying his product and saying, like, I got to get into a drunk Twitter fight with the WWE and they're not even responding to me? It's just me, just a one-sided Twitter fight? Does this overshadow what you have said is a pretty entertaining product to you?
I'll tell you what. I'm going to continue to support them because I think we need a second competitor. And
Okay.
I've liked their shows and their wrestling is good. But man, oh man, it'd be nice to see some people over there not act like children. Not to quote CM Punk, but he said everyone acts like children, and maybe might be a little right here because he's on Twitter tweeting away like he's tweeting like he's never used Twitter before. It's like, no, that's not what it's for. But I think he should delete it or at least calm the hell down and never do it again. And quite frankly, if he was a little intoxicated, it wouldn't be a terrible idea for him to say, hey, it's my birthday. I had too much to drink. I said crazy things. My apologies.
Sure.
No one
like
would.
Drunk tweeting has replaced drunk texting, which replaced drunk dialing.
That's right.
Right.
Well, the problem is when you're drunk tweeting, it's going out to hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, like a drunk text or a drunk dial is only going to one unfortunate person, not to the universe. Now, to put a bow on this, John, who did you watch on Tuesday?
I did watch AEW.
Okay, there you go. Did you flip back and forth? Were you a channel surfer? Or were you just like committed to AEW?
Committed to AEW. It was a good show.
Did you like the show?
I did like it.
Okay.
Swerve Strickland and Daniel Bryanson or Bryan Danielson were the opener, and they wrestled for 30 minutes. The match was excellent, and we saw Edge, the rated R. They're calling the rated R superstar. We saw him get his first win. So
Adam Copeland, yes, I read Luchasaurus, one of Christian Cage's compadres there in his faction. Yeah, okay. So you saw an entertaining show, you liked it, and so this is good. Like, it's coming from an AEW fan who likes their product, saying, Tony Khan, you're not helping.
Yeah, but if Tony just shut his mouth and they didn't have good ratings, you can move on. Like, you could even see he freaked out and they had horrible ratings. So it's like nobody. So another thing, maybe I'm even going a little too far into this, but 4% of people that watch AEW are on Twitter. So they only have 4% of their fans that are on Twitter actively that watch AEW. So they don't even know that he's saying this stuff, you know? So really, Twitter is not a useful tool for him. And the only reason that people will say or talk about what Tony's saying on Twitter is when he says something very stupid, which people often do on Twitter. So
it's going to be an ongoing saga. I mean, Eric Bischoff, I'll bring him up again. He used to say controversy creates cash, but for who? Who's this controversy generating cash for?
I believe Vince.
It might be for Vince, right?
Right. Well, that's my cheap heat, and that's what I wanted to lead off with. I'm sorry I went a bit long there, but
no, that's the lead of cheap heat. We got to talk about that. I'll go quickly here. John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
This was a USA Today. He's saying he can't do acting and WWE together. They've been talking to him because a lot of people are interested in John Cena. Hollywood strikes. If there's a resolution and you're going back to movie making, can you still continue this WWE run? Because it's been entertaining for people. People have liked the WWE run. He says, no. I made it perfectly clear. You can't do both because of liability insurance. If I were to try to juggle both, that's very selfish because I would put a whole lot of people in the movie business out of work if something happened to me. He gets hurt in the wrestling ring. The movie's got to go on hiatus for a while. He doesn't want to do this. As soon as we go back to work, we go back to work. Cena is currently scheduled to appear on the next 3 editions of Friday Night SmackDown. This was written before tonight, so that means that they've at least planned Cena to be there through October. November's another story, but we saw him tonight, and they've apparently got already booked 2 more. John Cena, have you liked his run so far? I like his run. I like the way they're using him. I like the way that he's kind of threaded the needle on a lot of the dangerous things that can happen to just a returning part-time star. I think he's done well. What say you about what we've seen from Cena so far? And is this the right call for him to say he's not going to do both at the same time?
I'm a big advocate for what the crowd likes and what they respond to. And every time he comes out, man, oh man, does he get a pop. Many years ago, he would get a bad pop. And by bad pop, people would go, boo, when his music started. And he was supposed to be a baby face. And then you'd hear, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. Let's go Cena, Cena sucks.
The dueling chants.
And that was bad. But now he's just getting the let's go Cena. And he's coming in there like Captain America with the jean shorts, the bright shirt, the hat, the salute, he's doing all that.
How about the call that he says as enjoyable as this run would be if they get rid of this strike in Hollywood and he goes back to work, he's got to leave WWE. Good, bad, would you be sad to see him go?
I think he's done a lot of what he can do already, and it wouldn't be too bad to have him go away. I like that the crowd's happy to see him, but his time's kind of over. And he's not really in any sort of storyline. So he can go away, and then he can come back come WrestleMania season. And
it might be the perfect out, wouldn't it? Like you're trying to figure out, how do we get out of the John Cena part-time reemergence? Oh, the strike ended. He's got to go back to work. It would be the perfect out for them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. We talked NWA with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce now having big on-screen roles, not as wrestlers, even though they look like they could still go with WWE. NWA announcing the territory system revival under Billy Corgan's leadership. This comes to us from WrestleZone here. They're going to start with a new territory called NWA Exodus Pro Midwest, which will be under the direction of EC3, who's their current NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. What do you remember about the territories from probably not seeing them, but hearing about them? And do you think territory wrestling can really work nowadays? There are some regional promotions still around, but they kind of get swallowed up on the national stage by WWE and now even by AEW. What say you about trying to have more regionally concentrated promotions where maybe a smaller group of nearby cities and people can get to know a promotion more, maybe get to know their stars more, and get more live events in a smaller circuit rather than traveling the world like, say, WWE does? What say you about that? Do you think it's worth a shot?
Definitely. And I'm going to tell you why. So AEW did a show, and it was somewhere in Utah. They did some weird city in Utah, and that was their Tuesday title show.
Okay.
And I'm like, what are they doing in this weird city in Utah? And there was like not a lot of people there, and you could see the empty seats like that they had hidden up. And it's like, Tony, just do Florida and the East Coast. To go from Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, work your way up and go up to Boston, and that's your territory. You do Philly, Newark, New York, Boston, Washington, Baltimore, like all those places. You don't have to be in the middle of the country in a random city in Utah. And yeah, so that would be my 2 cents. I would like the idea of a territory.
Somebody we each know and have listened to, Jim Cornette, has talked about regional promotions, and there are still some of them out there. He's always been a fan of regional promotions because it really teaches guys, and you and I have talked about this, you especially, it teaches guys how to get that in-ring chemistry, not just mic chemistry, but in-ring chemistry where you have to interact with the live crowd. Is that maybe lost because we don't have the territory days anymore?
Yeah. I mean, because you have that different set of guys being in there.
Sure, and you have to play to the live crowd in the territories.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always rely on the TV shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a live show first and foremost. I think this could work. And I people say, well, in the days of streaming and nationwide and worldwide media now, why would you go regional? And I think you can make regional work because you have so much online promotion. You can have your regional circuit and really develop some really hot crowds in a region for your live events, and then it's available to people all over the place online, on streaming, or later on in uploads to some of these
And
video platforms. I think it can work. So
for nothing, Dom, not for nothing, but you get the fans more familiar with all them because they're coming
sure,
by every month or every couple months. Oh yeah, NWA's back in town. That was fun. Let's go do it again. And
sure.
then you start to know who the guys are. Versus when you have WWE, for example, or AEW. AEW is one that's like they haven't been to Philly in like a year and a half. I'm like, what are you doing? You're in Utah. You haven't been to Philadelphia? Have you seen the fans? Have you seen these Phillies fans? Like, yeah.
You got to know where you're going to get a good reaction and go for it, right?
Exactly. You're gonna get some heat there, trust me.
Let's talk AEW again. There, nice segue there. You've talked about how enjoy the AEW announce team, the commentary team, and one of them, Tony Schiavone. I'm not going to play audio here he's being inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, the George Tragos Luthez Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, which is a wing of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum, for what he's done on the microphone. He's going to be the 2024 inductee. Gordon Soley was the first one in 2021, and they named the award after him. The other inductees have been Conrad Thompson was this current year. He's a podcaster. Jim Ross was the 2022 guy. So of the active guys who are still calling wrestling, two of the only two inductees into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame are AEW announcers. Deserved for them? Is this more of a career lifetime achievement award thing? I mean, it is in this sense, but does Tony still have the chops on the mic, and does Jim Ross still have the chops on the mic? You watch them a lot on AEW.
I love Tony and Jim.
Okay.
I've always liked Tony a lot, and I think he fits in pretty well with AEW. I think he's done a good job with it. Jim, unfortunately, whether it be a health issue or something with what's going, I don't know. There's an issue. Basically, Jim seems to have been sent down. So he does stuff like he'll do one match during Collision. He opens a pay-per-view show with a couple matches and then he leaves and Excalibur goes back in. In my opinion, I would rather hear Jim Ross than Excalibur. Or really
just, they are. There's the three of them, right?
Yeah. Well, I would rather have Jim Ross out there. I think Taz fills in for him, but I'd rather have Jim Ross. But I think that just due to his age, they don't want to give him too much. So
does it help him being sort of a special attraction now? Like Jim Ross just comes out for the big match.
I think that's the philosophy.
Okay.
The big match is here. Jim Ross is going to announce it. It's just to kind of get a pop from the crowd.
So you're high on Tony. Still has the skills, and this is not just a lifetime achievement award. You like what he's bringing to the AEW product.
Oh, absolutely. I am a little confused. How did Conrad Thompson win this award?
Because of his ad-free shows, all the wrestling podcasts he does. He's, modern broadcasting. He's really the king of modern broadcasting for pro wrestling.
I guess so. He's got all those guys, but really,
yeah, he's got a lot of people he knows. He's a wrestling collector himself. He does shows with Jeff Jarrett, Eric Bischoff, Jim Ross, Kurt Angle, maybe even Schiavone. A lot of these guys. I don't know everybody, and I may have misspoke on one of them, but they're all part of his his modern media. The George Tragos and Luthez wing of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame is a real thing. There is one female inductee in there. The professional wrestling ring is supposed to recognize professional wrestlers who also have an amateur wrestling background. There's one female inductee in here. You can kind of guess who it is. You see her name there?
Beth Copeland.
Beth Copeland, wife of Adam Copeland. This is the former Beth Phoenix from the WWE. And you figure, what's she doing in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame pro wrestling ring? Beth, real name Beth Kochansky, was the first female varsity wrestler at Notre Dame High School in Elmira, New York. So how about that? Beth Phoenix had an amateur wrestling background there. Isn't that fantastic? I like that.
That's great. I didn't know that.
And great for her for being an inductee in there. She's been there since, I think, 2019, they said. So awesome job, Beth Copeland. See, I learned something new today about the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum. One more thing for you. WWE wrestlers named their most underrated superstars in history from Men's Journal. Before we get to theirs, do you have a most underrated wrestler that you think, somebody who you think is underrated? While you think about it, I'll give you mine.
Yeah.
Most underrated wrestler. I was going to go with William Regal, Steven Regal here, because he was always so good, even though he never got a big belt. But there's somebody else who I think his talent was there, but he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Do you remember above average Mike Sanders?
No.
From the downfall of WCW. This guy was fantastic, but he finally got his break in WCW as the Titanic was like halfway underwater. And it was just, there was nothing for this guy to do. But above average Mike Sanders, I loved him. And he's another guy who was committed to his character and his act. The whole idea was like, pro wrestlers are so over the top, like with the superlatives. And here comes Mike Sanders out. Yeah, man, he's above average. Above average Mike Sanders. His finishing move was the C+. Or later on in Impact, it became the 3.0 because that's above average. And I got to tell you, there was nothing like these few moments when Mike Sanders elevated himself from jobber status to become the head of the thrill seekers or whatever they called them, this faction. And he finally started winning a few matches, and he would hit the C+. And Mark Madden, who was the commentator at the time, would just lose his mind and go, "That's the C+. That's above average." Like this was, it was like a real time parody of pro wrestling, but it worked. I loved above average Mike Sanders. Go take a look at Mike Sanders. You'll find him online. He's apparently a stand-up comedian nowadays. So he really had some entertainer chops. But yeah, above average Mike Sanders. Underrated, wrong place, wrong time. He was the kind of guy who really could have had a fun career. Never could have maybe won the big belt, but could have had a fun career. So since I have talked your ear off there and given you some time, who's your most underrated wrestler in history?
Well, Dom, I'll tell you what. I put a little thought into it, and I'm going to go ahead and say RVD, Rob Van Dam. Yeah. I always thought he was really cool, and he's got a great personality. He's done all these shoot interviews, and he's cool as the other side of the pillow. He can really work in there, and he's acrobatic, but he's really thick and strong. And he's just a cool character. He's played some different characters. Most recently, he was in TNA, and he was like a womanizer. And he had like all these strippers, like this old guy in a hot tub with all these strippers.
Okay.
He's all over the place. But for the most part, he just kind of plays a stoner because he is a stoner. So he's like, stoner wrestler.
There you go. Very good. I like that. RVD. Damian Priest chose X-Pac, a.k.a. Sean Waltman. aka 6 in WCW, Raquel Rodriguez gave a nod to Santino Marella, saying he was way ahead of his time as maybe a guy who knew how to blend some of that comedy into wrestling and he could still go in the ring. Ricochet gave chops to Owen Hart, a guy whose career was maybe cut short, but even during his prime, he never quite got out of his brother's shadow, did he?
No, but I think looking back on it, he did have a great career, and a lot of people talk about him now. So I don't necessarily know that he was underrated.
Carmelo Hayes gives it to Razor Ramon. Scott Hall, another guy who you look back on his career, he never won the big belt.
Yeah.
Not in WCW or WWF, WWE. Never won the big belt. So maybe that's a good reason to say that Razor Ramon is underrated. Santos Escobar called out Ultimo Dragon. Yeah, there's a good one. Do you remember Ultimo Dragon?
Only from WCW NWO Revenge, a video game I had.
Okay. Was he a cool character in the video game?
Yes, he was very good.
All right. So he was not underrated in the video game. Wonderful. Titus O'Neil with a wonderful shout out to current WWE star Chad Gable. Is Chad Gable underrated? We see him now, not that often, only on pay-per-views usually because he's on Raw. Is Chad Gable underrated?
Yeah, he's underutilized, I'd say, more than underrated. So yeah, he's underrated.
Okay, I agree. Every time I see him, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
he can do the comedy stuff, but I think he's fantastic in the ring. And Titus O'Neil goes on to say he's got superhuman strength. Like he's one of those pound for pound really strong guys. He apparently just got out a good program with Gunter. He did not take the belt from Gunter, but apparently they were really entertaining matches. Johnny Gargano went with the person he's married to, Candice LeRae. So, all right, Johnny Gargano, there you go. That's all I have. But wait, I've got one more thing, and you brought up RVD. I was saving this for you. I had no idea you were going to segue to him. Rob Van Dam, this comes to us from WrestleZone again. Rob Van Dam believes suicide dives and chops are overused in modern wrestling.
That's why I picked you as my most underrated wrestler.
What say you about RVD calling out the suicide dives and the chops?
I'm so glad you didn't tell me about this and this just happened holistically. Holy cow.
I was saving this for you. This is this week.
Now,
he talks about it. He thinks that too many guys are doing it who don't save it for big spots, or they look too contrived where, a guy's doing it and the other guy is just standing there on the floor waiting for it.
Yeah.
He's like waiting forever, and now he's got to move into it because the other guy didn't really dive accurately. Now the guy on the floor's got to wait, move into it to catch the guy. You want to see this done sparingly and by guys who know how to do it, and for a good reason. We got one dive, I think, on tonight's show. Do you remember when it was?
The one dive?
I'm thinking of one. Maybe there was a second one. I'm thinking of the tag title match. Jay Uso did it through the middle and top rope onto Grayson Waller at the end of the match to keep Waller from rolling into the ring and breaking up the pinfall. It was a way to just take out the guy on the outside and prevent a run-in or a breakup. That was the only one we saw. It wasn't an over-the-top dive. It wasn't a senton 450 dive. It wasn't a flip. It wasn't a moonsault. It was just I got to take that guy out. Boom! Right through the middle and top rope. Quick hitting, right on target by a guy who's already a high flyer, by a guy who knows how to do it, by a guy who nailed the move into a guy who didn't have to look stupid walking around waiting and then move into it in Grayson Waller.
Dom, if you scroll down a little bit here, this quote. All right, so I believe this is RVD.
Yep.
So he says, "You're right. The dive used to be like for the
daring, high flying dudes.
Yeah, the extra risky, daring, high flying dudes that really went out of their way. And now you have to top it, and you got to do a 450 to the floor." And then that almost feels like a standard as opposed to really standing out as a record-breaking event anymore. that's kind of what it has evolved to. So it's turned into a standard, how he mentioned, and it used to be a crazy move, which it should be, and now it's a standard.
He goes on a little bit here, maybe a lack of commitment to the craft, and that's that's part of it with the dive. It just becomes, when they do it, it just becomes so obvious that other guys are just standing there waiting to catch him. And that's a big problem with me talking about the dive. That's so not the way I ever got trained.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he brings up, I think it's because safety is more important than it ever has been. But that leads into the problem. The safety is only a problem if you're having guys do it too often and to guys who don't know how to do it or don't know how to take the move. It's not as risky a move for guys who know how to do it. Right?
Mm.
There you go. RVD. What a wonderfully organic LA Knight type of cheap heat pop here for us at the end.
Oh, yeah.
With an RVD takedown of the overused suicide dives.
And I hate the dive. I
it.
trash him every show. And my man RVD agrees.
There you go. I love it. That's all I got for you, John. It's heat. It's cheap. It's cheap heat.
Yeah. So let's switch over here. As we're moseying on down to the Italian goodbye, Dom.
Fun show tonight for us. Fun show that we watched. I don't know, man. I think we said it all. What do you think about AEW going forward here? We did not get into ratings for that head-to-head on Tuesday. Did you hear anything about that? Were the ratings good for AEW? Were they good for NXT?
They were good for NXT. They had about 900,000, and AEW had like 600,000 or something like that. So it was NXT won the ratings battle there. Really loaded the show up, which is interesting. They had Undertaker. They had John Cena. I watched glimpses of it, and I wasn't particularly impressed because it is really just a warehouse. Like, it's a warehouse with a bunch of screens all over the place. I mean, and the crowd is maybe 150 people, 100 to 150 people. So it's just not that good, but they got the ratings. They won the little battle they had here. I think in addition to that, it made Tony really angry because he went crazy. And I hope Tony put the bottle down, delete the app. This is a mistake. It won't happen again, right, Tony?
Please tweet responsibly.
Please tweet responsibly. Please drink and tweet responsibly.
Have you seen, if you must, call a designated tweeter.
Yes.
Someone with all of their faculties and alertness and awareness to tweet for you and to maybe say, oh, yeah, we'll tweet that, Tony, and then tweet something else that's much more appropriate.
Right.
Have you watched NXT before? I have not. What do you think of their program if you've watched it?
No, I don't watch it, so no.
Don't watch it. Okay, it's small arena. I do wonder if guys get to learn how to get their in-ring chemistry with a smaller crowd that's like right on top of them.
I think that's the point. And before, it was just on the WWE network, so you would watch it on, like, they wouldn't even put it on TV. You'd just be through the WWE network.
Yeah, just streaming, right?
Yeah, but now they made it a show on USA. And, just to be petty, they gave USA a lot of, I mean, it's they win this little petty war, but then they also give USA a little bit more ratings here. And
sure, especially since USA is going to be a bigger partner of theirs starting next October, when next year's season premiere of SmackDown will be on USA.
Right.
There may be some time there where all three of those TV deals, Raw, NXT, and SmackDown, are all owned by USA.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not make your biggest live TV partner extra pleased with you?
Yeah. yeah, so that's kind of that. We do.
Have
Um,
we had any people watching us on the live stream tonight? If you are, leave us some comments. We like to hear from you. We especially like when some real back and forth develops in our comment section. We've had some really good videos with a lot of views and a lot of banter back and forth. We John, you and I talk a lot on these live streams, but it's interesting to get some more voices in there, even if it's only for a brief comment here and there. I
yeah,
read them.
we've had up to 6 people watching tonight, Dom,
Okay,
and yeah, but we're being a little shy. I chatted them and let them know, hey, you asked them some questions and they haven't said anything. So if you do want to chat, go for it. If not, no sweat. But whenever you feel comfortable, jump on in. Tell us when we're doing something stupid, or tell us when we're doing something great, or just tell us anything really.
sure.
Um, Dom, we're headed to the Italian goodbye here. If you
Yes.
are currently on Facebook or Twitch, please check us out over on YouTube. We have
Mhm.
plenty of videos, and these videos that we're creating are short videos that are edited from like this specific show here, and they're performing better and better each day. I just released one with Hulk Hogan. That's got about 900 views, I think. And
Hulk
that's
Hogan talking about his Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers from last live stream's Cheap Heat. Yes, wherever you're watching our live stream, thank you very much. Please do keep in touch with us on your favorite platform for live streams. But also know YouTube is where all of our other uploads are able to be stored and archived and available. So if you want more, don't bury the lead. If you can't get enough of us, head on over to YouTube, subscribe so you know when we get new alerts out there, and help us hit our next benchmark. We're almost at 300 subscribers, aren't we?
Yep.
We're getting there. We're climbing. Thank
All
you
right.
very much to everybody who is subscribed and everybody who's thinking about it. You
All right.
know,
Well, thank you so much for joining today. And thanks, viewers who are on and hung in with us on Facebook and Twitch. So appreciate that. We are going to end the show here. My name's John Tadell. This is Dom Scarcella. Dom, thanks so much for hanging with me tonight. I appreciate it, man. And everyone,
yes, sir.
have a great rest of your evening.